Last time in this Surah Ar-Rahman series,
But there's something else between you and your spouse. The husband to the wife to the husband. That is a separate issue. That's a completely separate issue. And you have to turn that into some degree, as much as you can, of qasirat al-tarf.
Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran.
To help you follow along and reflect more deeply, we've created a companion workbook for this series. Download it at bayyinah.com/Rahman.
كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان.
We know Allah says that we have to contemplate the Quran and we have to think deeply about the Quran. And doing so, if we don't do so, the reason for that could be that our hearts have locks on them. So this is actually a pretty serious thing. Like, Allah really expects you and me to do contemplation of the Quran. The problem is that most of us don't know where to begin. How do you do contemplation of the Quran, right? And outside of these lectures that I'm doing and maybe assisting you a little bit with some contemplation, how do you engage in that in a good way yourself, right? So Sheikh Suhaib and I kind of developed this concept of 5 lenses of contemplating the Quran and one major prerequisite before the 5 lenses. So I'm going to talk to you briefly about the prerequisite today and maybe even one lens. So the prerequisite is, when we approach the Quran, what state does my heart have to be in? What emotional state do I have to be in? What is my attitude towards this book? Look, we believe the word of Allah is perfect. We believe the word of Allah is from Allah Himself. It has guidance. All of that's fine. But practically speaking, when you open up the Quran and you start to study a surah, you have to mentally prepare yourself and tell yourself that everything in the surah is perfect. I'm not. My understanding is not. If I'm really going to do tadabbur, I'm not coming to the Quran as a critic. Any other book, you can come to it as a critic. The Quran, once you've if you're not a Muslim, then go ahead, come to it as a critic. Criticize all you want until you find the conclusion that it's not worthy, it's beyond criticism. Allah even says, ask questions of it, fine. But once you've entered into the religion, once you've accepted that this is in fact divine, now your attitude isn't, this ayah is not making sense to me. How come it says this? I'm bothered by this. No. I'm coming to it. It is perfect already. And I'm ready to humble myself to what I don't know. Right? If I don't come to the Quran with an attitude of humility, absolute humility, like I just don't know. I believe like this is one of the most important lessons in the Quran, even taught with Alif-Lam-Mim. First surah after we asked for guidance in the Mus'haf order, Al-Baqarah, Allah started with Alif-Lam-Mim, which no human being knows what it means. Like the first lesson is, you don't know. Put your need to understand everything in check. Park that at the gate. Now you're ready to learn the book. Allah, Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows you don't know. Allah knows you don't know. Then you start studying the book. That's the first most important bit of like the heart filter is what I call it. And then not only is it the humility, but it's also, why am I learning this book? Why am I learning Sourate Ar-Rahman? The goal of the word of Allah is to create a connection between me and Allah, to strengthen a bond between me and Allah. The goal is not Arabic linguistics. The goal is not to impress myself or anybody else. The goal is not fun facts. None of those are a worthy goal. There's only one goal. I want to find a deeper connection between myself and Allah. And the best connection I can make with Him is His own words given directly to me. Like this was facilitated for me. So this is there for a reason. And that reason is this is wa'tasimu bihablillah, right? Hold on to Allah's rope. When you have and I have this attitude, here's something that Allah guarantees. Those who come to Allah with this humility, seeking Allah's guidance, Allah does not let them fall into misguidance. That's Allah's guarantee. You're like, oh, which tafsir should I read? Which translation should I read? Which scholar should I rely on? Which? Look, there's an endless amount of opinions on that, isn't there? Every other person you ask, who should you listen to, will give you a different answer. Isn't that true? So you have too many options of getting information, and everybody has their own opinion on who's got the right information, which means ancient civilizations used to be lost because they had no access to information. We're lost because we have too much access to information. It's overflooded. The only one who can guarantee that you will not get lost is who? Is Allah Himself. When I come to Allah with that humble attitude, then through that endless labyrinth of opinions and information, one thing is for sure, Allah will not leave me without guidance, because He gave me this rope that's connecting me to Him. So even if I find something that maybe I came to a conclusion but it was wrong about the Quran, that can happen, sure, but I won't be misguided. I can make mistakes, but I won't be misguided. I can learn, I can grow, but I won't be misguided. This attitude has other benefits. You know what its other benefits are? But I learned from my sheikh this. But I read this. I've learned from people that I love. Absolutely love. Like I love Dr. Isar Ahmed, rahimahullah, right? I studied so much Quran under him. I love Dr. Abdul Samih. May Allah preserve him and protect him, right? I went to a dawr of the Quran with him. I love Sheikh Dawood Busnan in Muscat, who I did a Tadabbur Quran with him. I love people that I've studied the Quran with and learned the Quran from. Sheikh al-Sha'rawi, I've read almost all of his tafsir, all the way up to Surat al-Najm before he passed, right? Rahimahullah. But that doesn't mean that I'm loyal to them. And it's not because if I read something from one of them that I love so much, and then I found compelling evidence elsewhere, that I'm like out of love for them, I cannot disagree. I will humble myself to the word of Allah, to the truth, even if that means I find that I was wrong, or I was holding on to something less convincing. I could share something with you about كَأَنَّهُنَّ الْيَاقُوتُ وَالْمَرْجَانُ, and one of you can come after the lecture and say, by the way, I think you're wrong, and here's why. And here's what I've read. And here's what I've researched. It's possible or no? Yeah, totally possible. And I have two options. Well, no, what the books I read and the people that I learned from said this. So you can take your little opinion and go back where you came from in South Jersey. Right? Or I can actually say, you know what? Thank you. Because you helped me see something in Allah's book that I didn't see before. You opened a door I didn't have open before. This happens only when we're not impressed with our own selves or our knowledge. We're actually humbled before Allah's word. Like my only loyalty is I just want to understand Quran better. That's it. That's all I want. It's a great song. Okay. So that's the first and foremost prerequisite. Now, once that prerequisite is done, there are 5 things you can do, 5 lenses you can put on to be able to help contemplate the Quran. And the first lens that I'd like to share with you is called the lens of language. It's called the lens of language. Allah chose Arabic for a reason. The Arabic language is remarkably rich. It has depth. Not only does it have depth of word, meaning inside a word there's an entire story, as you've been seeing over and over again, right? But also in its grammar, in the way that sentences are structured, in the way that words are spelled. There's the morphology of it, the tasrif of it. There's the grammar and syntax of it, the nahu of it. There's the rhetorical devices in it, the balagha of it, the ilmul ma'ani of it, al-badi' of it, and the bayan of it. There's so many sciences of Arabic that can seem overwhelming and like, well, I don't know that stuff. I'm not Arab. I'm a Bangladeshi Muslim. I'm a Taiwanese Muslim. I'm an Indonesian Muslim. I don't know this stuff. How am I supposed to contemplate the lens of the language? Well, you have 2 choices. For now, you either have to depend on someone who knows the language better, and they can help you. You can at least say, hey, I read the translation of this ayah, and it says Allah gets angry. Can you tell me more about the word anger in Arabic? Like, is there something more behind that word? And you can go to somebody that has more knowledge, and they can dig into that word for you, and you can contemplate the meanings of that word. You understand? So you have to develop that desire to gain access to Arabic. On the last day, I'm going to show you what I've been able to do with helping people like yourself at least learn enough Arabic that you can start doing Quran study yourself. Like if you're willing to put in a year and a half part-time, you can be doing Quran research yourself. Part-time, not full-time, part-time. You can be studying the Arabic yourself, all these dictionaries that I'm quoting and stuff, you can be opening them yourself. You can be doing that digging yourself. But it just requires a commitment. If you want to, for now, you can depend on someone else. But if you really develop that thirst of, I want to do the contemplation of the Quran through the lens of language, because Allah chose this language, then you can get there. It's not a crazy, lofty goal that you can never reach. You can reach it. It's an attainable thing. Okay, so that's your first lens. But I'm going to leave you today with your second lens. And the second lens is going to be the world. I call it the world of the Quran. This is my favorite lens, actually. I call it the world of the Quran. When Allah is talking about the two seas, or He's talking about ships, right? Then if I'm really doing Tadabbur, you know what I should do? I should start studying ships and study the history of sailing and navigation. I should study buoyancy. If Allah mentions something, I want to enter into its world. Allah took me inside a world. I want to go in it. I want to dive deep in it. When we were studying Surat Al-Dhariyat, Sheikh Suhaib and I, Allah opened with the winds. I swear by the winds that carry. The winds that carry. So guess what we did? What did we start studying? We started studying winds. We didn't just study the tafsir of Qurtubi and Jalalain and, what did they say about the wind? No. We went to National Geographic, started reading article after article, started watching documentary after documentary on the wind, and learned some incredible things. Like, there are winds that actually have pathways across the oceans, and the coast of Florida has sand on the beach that has traveled from sub-Saharan Africa over the ocean thousands of miles. When Allah says the winds that carry, like, whoa, entire atmospheric pressures are carried, humidity is carried, pollen is carried, volcanic ash is carried across continents. Like, the amount of earth that is carried by wind is incredible, is mind-blowing, And He just captures this incredible eco-reality in just one phrase, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا. That's it. I'll give you another example of entering the world of the Quran. The angels came to the house of Ibrahim, alayhi salam. He was very old. And they sat down and he said, why are you really here? And they told him that they are here to tell him that he's going to have a child. And when they told him that, his wife, Allah says, سَكَّتْ أَقْبَلَتْ امْرَأَتُهُ فِي سَرَّةٍ. His wife started screaming. Ah! فَصَكَّتْ وَجْهَهَا. She slapped her own face. وَقَالَتْ عَجُوزٌ عَقِيمٌ. And she said, old woman, barren, infertile. She said two words, old woman, infertile. Allah could have just said his wife was shocked. What did He say? He said, she screamed, she slapped her face, she said, old woman, she said, infertile. But the angels didn't come to talk to her. Angels came to talk to who? Ibrahim. Angels would have been like, excuse me, sir, could you put your wife in check? Like, this is official divine revelation business between God and a prophet. Like, can you just calm down a second? Get your house in order. The sister section, could you please calm down? She lost it. She's really upset. And she screams these words. And what's remarkable is when she's yelling at the angels. Who yells at angels? I'll tell you who. Ibrahim's wife yells at angels. And she yells at them, and then they start talking to her. right? Like they came to talk to Ibrahim, right? But then the Quran, now they're talking to who? The wife. Which means this was part of God's plan. This was Allah's plan that she was going to get shocked, and part of what was going to happen was they're going to, and Allah, now think about this. Just when I say enter the world of the Quran, use your imagination for a moment. Ibrahim alayhi salam lived well over 100 years. Okay? How many minutes, how many hours in a day? 24. How many minutes per hour? 60. How many seconds per minute? Okay, this conversation, maybe 20 seconds. This conversation is 20 seconds. Out of how many days of the life of Ibrahim? 100 and something years. Allah could have told me so much about the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, because there's 100 something years to pick from. Right? And what did he choose to tell me from this long life of Ibrahim alayhi salam? He chose to tell me a few seconds here and there. And some of those seconds that he chose are his woman, his wife, slapping her face, screaming, and saying two words. You know what? Allah wants me to enter into her world. Allah wants that I enter into. I can't just pass by. I need to know what's going on here. We had to do a study when we were studying Surat Al-Dhariyat. We had to do a study of infertility. We had to study the women that were old and never had a child and their psychological states. Study the relationship between depression and infertility, self-image and infertility, right? And we learned amazing things. We studied psychological papers, research papers, sociological studies on infertile women and the rates of infertility. About 10% of women on the planet are now infertile. It's a terrifying number, right? What do these women go through? Because this woman's gone through, and she's married to Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? And Ibrahim alayhi salam is always concerned for the next generation, and she can't give him a child. And he doesn't leave her. And he's gotten old with her. You don't think she feels a burden all these years that she wasn't able to give Ibrahim a child, alayhi salam, the man that she loves? And all these years she couldn't have a child, and she's old and almost dead, and angels show up and say, congratulations, you're going to have a child. And she goes, excuse me? Where were you for the last 90 years? Now you want to, this is good news now? Now, ajuz. Seriously, ajuz. You couldn't give me a child when I was 25, 35, 45, 55. I'm like 95 years old. Now you want to give me a baby. How am I going to even have that child? How am I going to feed that child? I can barely walk myself. And now you want me to take care of a baby. And all this time, I tried to have a baby. And you kept me barren. You kept me infertile. She's angry. She's angry. Why now? She's got two questions. The ajuz is why now? And aqim is why not before? Isn't it? And she's frustrated. And she's so frustrated, she screams at the angels. And this is so emotional for her, she slaps her own face and cries out. You know, this is a very powerful moment in the Quran. We have to feel what she feels. We have to experience what she experienced. If we don't enter the world of the Quran, we'll just pass right by. We'll just pass right by. We won't even know what's going on. The women that saw Yusuf alayhi salam and they cut their hand. If you really want to understand that, you know what you have to do? You have to enter ancient Egypt. You have to enter ancient Egypt and their desperate housewives. You have to see what their elite families were like. What kind of parties did these women have? How did they dress? What did they eat? What did they drink? Did they drink orange juice? You think these elite women, millionaire women, governors and billionaire business people's wives get together, fancy dressed, and they're sitting and having orange juice? What are they drinking? They're drinking alcohol. They're drinking alcohol. They're dressed provocatively, right? They're saying all kinds of vile things. And then he walks in. The scene is actually pretty indecent. It's very indecent what they're doing with him. And when he's not indulging, they're saying, oh, he's such an angel. Look at him. He's not even looking this way. Oh, how sweet. What a gracious angel. My. Now they're even more eager to tease. They're more eager to toy around with him. And he's just he sees just demons from hell. That's what he sees, and he's just holding himself back. And this is the situation Allah put Yusuf alayhi salam in. When you enter that world, you see a different Quran. You see the Allah will take you inside these magnificent places, sometimes in nature, sometimes in history, sometimes inside the heart of a person, sometimes inside of a scene, immersing you. This is the immersive Quran experience. So what I want you to do when you study Quran, even if you study a little bit, what world is Allah taking you inside? Right? What world is He taking you inside? And stay in that world for a little bit. Take your time with it a little bit. Like when we talked about the spouses in Jannah and they're limiting their sight, right? Don't just pass, but stop. We'll just think about that for a second. Let's go inside that world. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Why is He saying this? What's the big deal? My late teacher, Dr. Isar Ahmad, about these ayat, about Yaqut wal Marjan, he says, I have to confess something, because he's a very philosophical man, right? And he had written papers on modernity and Islam when he was 25 years old. And those papers are being studied in PhD programs, right? He was 25 years. I read his paper and I'm like, I feel so stupid. And he wrote it in English. And English is not his fourth language, And when he read this surah, he said, I have to confess something. When I heard about the rewards of Jannah, I felt, why isn't the Quran talking about something higher? Why isn't it talking about wisdom, Allah's company, something more spiritual? Why is it talking about beautiful women? It's still very animal, right? He felt like he had this feeling inside him that's still animal. And then he came to his own, and he stayed in that world. It bothered him, and he stayed in that world. And then he talked about what he came to the conclusion of. And he said there are enough men in the world that out of obedience to Allah contain themselves, hold themselves back. When they have the opportunity, they have the chance to do so, they have the freedom to do so, but the only thing caging them is Allah's commandment. That's it. And Allah is giving those men free rein. And He's giving them what they've held themselves back from. This is actually Allah, just like you saw al-jaza'u min jinsil amal in the criminals. They're running around between two things because they were doing the running around in dunya. Well, the believer that was restraining himself in dunya is given unrestrained access in Jannah. So this is actually Allah empathizing with His believer. He's empathizing with him. So but he wrestled with that, right? He wrestled with the word of Allah. He stayed in it. He grappled with it, and then he came to these conclusions. So this is actually the second lens, the lens of language, and the really important lens, entering into the world of the Quran, entering into the world that it wants you to enter into. And I'm telling you, if you start doing that, your relationship with the Quran will completely change.
Coming up next time in this Surah Ar-Rahman series,
I can understand what's the most beautiful thing from my imagination. I have a standard, I have expectations, I have desires. I can come up with things that I want, but Allah is not saying, if you do the best, I will give you the best based on your imagination. He's saying, I'll give you the actual best, which is way above and beyond what I could have imagined. But even that's not enough. And He said, and I've got some more on top of that.